Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and today I'm going to be doing a book review on The World's Greatest Detective by Caroline Carlson. I got this book in my May Owl Crate Junior box, which I'll leave a link down below if you missed it. But this follows a young 11-year-old boy named Toby, and he is currently living with his uncle. His uncle is a detective, and he wants to follow in his uncle's footsteps and become a great detective. One day they receive a letter from a guy named Hugh Abernathy, and it's inviting his uncle and a bunch of the different people that live on this one street where all the detectives have opened shop to come and participate in a competition to prove that they are the world's greatest detective. When Toby's uncle decides not to go and enter into this competition, Toby decides that he's going to take on the challenge and participate in the competition himself, and he teams up with his friend Ivy and they try to solve the case. The problem is that before the competition even starts, one of the detectives ends up being murdered, and so the competition really becomes solving the case of the murdered detective instead of the planned competition. One hitch in Toby's plan, however, is that he's haunted by something called the Troubles, and it just seems like a lot of things in his life go wrong all the time, continuously, without giving him a break, and so he is trying to overcome the troubles, and this competition is where he can leave those troubles behind and prove that he is worth keeping around in his uncle's life. As usual with my book reviews, I'm going to go through my pros, give you my cons, give you my rating, and be done. My first pro for this book is that it was incredibly engaging. I was hooked all the way through this book trying to solve who had done the murder, who had killed the detective, how did they do it, when did they do it, all of those things. I was trying to figure it out before the characters in the book figured it out, and it was just a really fun time reading this book. A lot of the detective or mystery type books in middle grade are incredibly predictable, and you pretty much know exactly how it's going to end right when you start it. But with this one, I was pleasantly surprised that I could not guess exactly what was going to happen. At some point or another, I thought every single character in this book had murdered the detective, and I think that that's something that the author did really well, was plan out how she was going to make it possible for every character to have committed the murder, but then also make you like the characters so that you don't want them to have committed the murder, but you have to recognize that they are capable and could have done it. And so that brought my enjoyment level even higher because, one, I was trying to figure it out, and two, I was hoping that certain characters wouldn't be the murderer and other ones would be, so it was all a big fun game, and I absolutely enjoyed myself while reading this. I thought that Toby and Ivy were both realistic 11-year-olds. They're not the greatest detectives ever, even though that's the title of the book. They're so bad at being sneaky, and you can tell that the adults around them allow them to do their sleuthing and everything like that, but they know that they're not being very sneaky about it. But I appreciated that the children didn't know everything, and their inexperience with sleuthing really showed. Another pro is the dog in this book. There's a dog named Percival, and he is so cute. I want Percival. He actually plays a very significant role in this book, and I just love when there are animal sidekicks in books. Percival was a very entertaining and lovable one. And I think my biggest pro for this book was that it portrays the world in tones of gray. It definitely shows the reader that the world isn't just black and white, and everyone has something that they are not proud of in their past. In certain areas of their life, they are better people than in other areas of their life. So I really enjoyed that this depicted the world in a realistic way, in the sense that people are all over the spectrum of good and evil. Now I'm going to be talking about some of my cons. My first con for this book was, although that the people were quite realistic, I think the situation was very not realistic. I mean, obviously this is a middle grade fiction novel, so it doesn't need to be, but I think that the police would get involved a lot more than they did in this book. The detectives are given an insane amount of time to try to solve the murder, but the police know that a murder has taken place. I don't know how the police were kept out of the situation. It was all kind of weird, and I don't know if that's because this was set in a historical time period, so I don't know if police were kind of pushed off easier back then. And my only other con that I really had was that there are a lot of loose ends in this book that are not addressed. I think that there could easily be a sequel to this book because there are so many questions that I had when this book ended. Even things at the beginning of the book weren't really addressed and it was wrapping everything up. For instance, there's a jail or prison that's near this town, and people escape from the prison a lot. One question would be, how are they escaping this prison so often? And two, there's one guy at the very very beginning that escapes and you never find out what happens to him. And there's some other very, very important plot lines that are not actually tied up and you never know the answers to. So it's stuff like that that I would like some closure on. So overall, I really enjoyed myself while reading this book. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking to get into more middle grade mystery, or you have a middle grade reader in your life that you think would really enjoy it. I definitely say give it a shot. So that's going to be my review on The World's Greatest Detective by Caroline Carlson. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you've read this book. Are you interested in reading it now? Are you interested in giving it to a middle grade reader in your life? Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.